Hey, what's going on? This is Sports Truth. I'm your host, Jordan Harris, your favorite host in the entire world. So, today's video, I'm actually super excited about it. Maybe the most excited I've been about making a video, except the video that I'm going to make when the Hurricanes beat Florida State this coming year. I cannot top the anticipation for that one. But this is probably the most excited I've ever been for a video. What we're going to be doing is unveiling my top 25 favorite hurricanes of all time. That does not mean the 25 greatest hurricanes. It means my favorite 25 hurricanes of all time. There were a couple of ties that I really couldn't break, so we ended up having 26. So we're just going to say top 25 plus one favorite hurricanes of all time. The way that I'm going to do this is numbers 11 through 26, I'll unveil those 3 or 4 at a time on one slide. Okay. And then the top 10, I'll do individually each slide and I'll go over their accolades and all of that stuff. And then each player, I'll explain just a quick little explanation on why they are one of my favorite hurricanes of all time. Again, not the greatest hurricanes of all time, but my personal favorites, okay? The reason why I'm really excited about this is because it does a couple of things that I really like. First is it encourages people to talk, engage. It encourages people to talk about who their favorite players are. Number two is that it allows us to walk down memory lane a little bit and say, oh, yeah, I remember that player. Oh, yeah, so every now and again you'll forget a player, then somebody will bring a player up and you'll be like, oh yeah, I do remember him. So those are the two things that I really look forward to in the comment section. All right, so let's go ahead and get started then. Numbers 24 through number 26. And these are honestly in no particular order. Just know that, like, when I say that, I mean, I'm not saying Greg Olsen is 24, Vince Wilfork is 25, and Jimmy Graham is 26. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying these three players, I don't care what order you put them in, but these three is my number 24 through 26. Hope that makes sense. All right, so Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen was one of those people where he was really good in the Hurricanes uniform, but once he got to the NFL, it was like, dang, I didn't know he was that good. Like he played really well for the Hurricanes for the 3 years he was there. But once he got to playing, once he put that Panthers uniform on, it seemed like he turned into a Super Saiyan all of a sudden. He got even better than I expected him to be able to play. So that's Greg Olsen. Vince Wilfork, he's one of my favorites because obviously he was really good with the Hurricanes. But then once he went to the Patriots, he seemed like he took another level. He went up another level as well. But homeboy was so big and he had such a personality, you had to love him. So that's part of why he ended up being one of my favorite Hurricanes of all time. Jimmy Graham, he's one of my favorites because you probably remember his story, but he played basketball for the Hurricanes. And he's like, hey, man, I'm going to take a stab at this football thing. And, he went out there, tight end. He looked really good from the jump. Like, he was a really good football player from the start. It was crazy. It blew me away. I remember everybody talking about how this basketball player was going to turn to football. I didn't know how it was going to go, but he ended up playing extremely well in college, and then he went and played for the Saints and looked outstanding there. He had a good career with the Seahawks. He's played a bunch of years in the NFL and ended up being one of the best tight ends of all time in the NFL. So that story is crazy. And if you doubt that he's one of the best tight ends in the history of the NFL, just go look his numbers up, and I'm sure you'll agree with me after that. All right. So let's see who our next four. So this is number 20 through number 23. Santana Moss, he played from 97 to 2000. Sam Shields, Kellen Winslow, and Willis McGahee. So let's start with Santana Moss. He's probably the first football player that I can recall, like, offenses saying, we need to manipulate the defense so we can get this player into space. Because if he gets into space, it's going to be a touchdown. Santana Moss is the first person that I can recall thinking and hearing about that. I was like, dang, is he that crazy good? And then I'm watching him, I'm like, yeah, once he touches the ball, if he gets any kind of, if he gets a sliver of light, he gone. Sliver of daylight, touchdown. Sam Shields, I love Sam Shields because if y'all remember, he started off wearing number 83 as a wide receiver. And then eventually he switched to number 9 and he started playing defensive back. So the fact that he had that type of versatility and then he showed that type of willingness to do whatever it takes to make it, I think that's super cool. Because so many people are just stubborn in their ways and they're like, no, I'm going to be a wide receiver. I don't care what you say. I'm going to be a receiver. But Sam Shields made that change from receiver to defensive back and had a long career in the NFL because of that. So he played for the Packers. I think it's number 37 for the Packers. Had a really good career there. So I think that's real cool to show that determination and being able to say, I don't care where you put me. I just want to be successful. Give me a shot at it. I'll work out and make it happen. I think that's super cool. So Sam Shields, one of my favorite Hurricanes of all time. Kellen Winslow, as I call him, Crazy Kellen. Because it seemed like Kellen Winslow was always about that action. Like whether he was playing for the Browns in the NFL or he was catching passes in college, he seemed like he was always ready for whatever was coming his way. Big fan of his. When he caught the ball, hardly ever ran out of bounds. He was looking for people to run into. Hard-nosed player. His dad was a great NFL player, so I like Kellen Winslow quite a bit. Willis McGahee. He's one of my favorites because y'all remember how crazy stacked that 2001 team is. If you just go look at the running back room on that, it's like, what? A lot of people don't even realize who was on that team because all they knew was, they would look out there, they would see number 26 running, and they thinking, oh, he's a really good running back. But they have no idea that they had a Frank Gore and they got, McGahee. Like their team was stacked. So Willis McGahee is one of my favorites because he came into the spotlight just after that big 2001 season. Then he got hurt real bad against Ohio State. And I was like, is that brother ever going to be able to walk again? Because that was a gruesome injury. And for him to be able to bounce back like he did and have a long, really positive NFL career, got to take your hat off to that. Huge, huge Willis McGahee fan. All right, let's move on to the next slide here. This is going to be numbers 16 through 19. All right, Jeremy Shockey. Jeremy Shockey, believe it or not, is from Ada, Oklahoma, which is the same town that my mom was born in. Y'all probably never even heard of Ada, Oklahoma. But that's where Jeremy Shockey is from. That's where my mom is from. So there's an obvious connection there. But I love the fact that he had a similar mentality to Kellen Winslow, where he never saw anything that he was scared of. Tough dude, super tough, and could catch anything in his vicinity. It didn't have to be right between the eights. If you put it anywhere in his area, he was going to catch it, make a move, and get down the field. Okay, Sean Spence. Y'all going to be like, how is Sean Spence in his top 20 favorite players ever? If you remember, so he played from 2008 to 2011. If you remember, 2008 was a year that the Hurricanes had, I think it was the number one recruiting class in the nation. They got it seemed like the all-star team of Florida all went to Miami that year. It was crazy. So Sean Spence came in along with two other linebackers. I'm kind of drawing a blank on who those other two linebackers were. But he had two other linebackers that came in and they started as freshmen. It was three freshman linebackers that started. And I just knew that Sean Spence was going to end up being this Hurricane great, and then he was going to go to the NFL and be a Hall of Famer there. Obviously, that didn't pan out, but the fact that he came in and he started for 4 years, that made me a big fan of his. I thought that was crazy that he came in as a starter, as a freshman, and then played the next few years. He did not turn out as good as I thought and hoped he would, but he still had a really good career, especially for the Hurricanes. Xavier Restrepo. This is another one where y'all going to say, how are you going to put him on there? Well, I love everything that Xavier Restrepo is about. For one, he gets open every play. I love the fact that he's not the biggest dude, he's not the fastest dude, he's not the quickest dude, but he somehow figures out to be the best player on the field a lot of the times. And you're like, how is this little dude? How he keep getting open? Like he's one of those dudes. If he wasn't on your team, you would hate him because it's like, how is this fool open every play? He's not that fast. He ain't that quick. He's not that strong. But somehow he gets open. And I love the fact that he seems to be a big time team oriented guy. Like he always had Tyler Van Dyke's back, even when Tyler Van Dyke was killing the team. He always had his back. And then as soon as the new quarterback comes in, Cam Ward, Xavier Restrepo is the first person taking selfies and posting that online too. So I just like everything that Xavier Restrepo is about. I love everything about the dude. From where I'm sitting here in Wichita, Kansas, I love everything about what I see from him. All right, now this one, y'all probably gonna try to tear my head off, but Ja'Cory Harris. I have to give a little chuckle on that because I know y'all gonna be like, "What is this fool Jordan talking about?" So, Ja'Cory is the guy who spearheaded this team, this number one recruiting class that came in 2008. Now, I'm not gonna lie, my man loved to throw the ball to the other team, and I was just waiting and waiting and waiting for him to figure it out. And somehow in 4 years he never did. God bless him. Now he's a firefighter, so cool. But somehow, I don't know if it's because his initials is Jay Harris and I went by Jay. People always call me Jay Harris. Maybe that's part of it. But there was so much excitement around Ja'Cory Harris and all of these players that came in at the same time, and it was this new recruiting class. And I remember yelling at everybody like, "The U is back! The U is back!" And that's really why I will never say the U is back again until we're in the national championship or we get in like deep into the playoffs. Ja'Cory Harris taught me to never say the U is back because like if y'all could have heard how obnoxious I was when Ja'Cory Harris and them signed when we got that number one recruiting class in '08, I was so obnoxious and man, it made me look crazy. So he taught me a really good lesson. Either way, Ja'Cory Harris came in, never gained any weight, string bean the whole time, big letdown, but somehow, I don't know why, I got this big, huge soft spot for my man Ja'Cory Harris. One of my favorite Hurricanes, somehow, of all time. Somehow. All right, let's move on. This is number 15. This is number 12 through 15. So, Travis Benjamin. Travis Benjamin is one of my all-time favorites, and I'm sure some of y'all are going to be shocked that he's all the way up here between 12 and 15 on the same page as Ken Dorsey and Bryant McKinnie and Clinton Portis. Like, what? That doesn't make sense. But I love the fact that, for one, Travis Benjamin, if you remember, he made one of the biggest plays ever against Florida State. I remember watching that in my living room I had like one of my cousin Brandon and I, in the house going crazy when he caught that lats. It was like, I think he ended up going out of bounds at like the 4 yard line, the 6 yard line with just a few seconds. It was crazy. But Travis Benjamin making that catch, I mean, forever one of my favorites, just based on that. But also, when you looked at the dude, his legs were about the size of a number 2 pencil. And he's out there playing with these big behemoths. So when you look at him, you're like, how is he even playing Division I football? He's definitely not going to make it to the NFL. And somehow he ended up getting to the NFL and having an outstanding NFL career. I think he played like nine seasons in the NFL. Made some really good money while he was there too. Kick returns and all, just specialists and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, Travis Benjamin, forever one of my favorites based on that. I think if I was able to live till I was 200 years old and watch another 70, 80 years of college football for the Hurricanes, Travis Benjamin would somehow still be in my top 20, even after 70 to 100 more years of watching Hurricanes. Call me crazy. It is what it is. Clinton Portis. Clinton Portis was a freak of nature. The dude was huge, really fast, could cut on a dime, could stiff arm a linebacker. Like, he was just ridiculous. He could do everything. So Clinton Portis, enough said about that. Ken Dorsey, I mean, when you got a guy who's in Heisman, who's in the Heisman house and all that stuff, you got to respect it. He's probably, I mean, I think we have to say he's the last great quarterback at Miami. I think we have to say that. Yeah, I think we got to say that. I'm going through my head right now thinking like Brock Berlin. Yeah, he's got to be, right? He's the last great quarterback that we've had. Hopefully that changes this year. But he's the last great quarterback we've had. He was the ultimate game manager. Like, if we just being real, he didn't go out there and make a bunch of plays with his legs and extend. He wasn't doing that. Everything had to be on time for him. But he was the ultimate game manager. He knew where his playmakers were. He got the ball to them. He just did what he was supposed to do on an excellent team, the greatest team of all time, if you ask me. He did what he was supposed to do, and it worked out on the field. Undefeated season, best season of all time, 2001 Hurricanes. Ended up winning the championship against Nebraska. Way too much to way too little. I forgot what the score was, but the score was basically too much to not close to enough. So Ken Dorsey, got to respect it, got to love him. Bryant McKinnie. So Bryant McKinnie is one of my favorites because he's got this stat that is so crazy, which is he never gave up one sack. And I always tell people this. Like, when I'm talking about the Hurricanes, I'm like, do you realize, like, when people talk about Maui Noah, I think he is really good. But then I say, Maui Noah is a freshman. He's a freshman. He just finished his freshman season. I get it. But I say, like, Maui Noah is good. But let's pump the brakes on, like, comparing him to the greatest of the Hurricanes offensive linemen of all time. Like, you realize Bryant McKinnie never gave up one sack when he was wearing a uniform of the Hurricanes? Like, that is a crazy, crazy stat. And, in the years that he played, he never gave up one sack. That is crazy. So to start every game for those couple of years and not give up one sack out of all of those snaps, bruh, that is impressive. But this is number 12 through 15. Travis Benjamin, Clinton Portis, Ken Dorsey, and Bryant McKinnie. 12 through 15. All right. So we go from 12 to 10 because there was a two-way tie for 10. I could not break it. I guess I could. I could say probably Edgerrin James probably is my 11. But Edgerrin James, tie for 10. He was with the Hurricanes from 96 to 98. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, first team All-Pro in his rookie season, which is crazy. Two-time second team All-Pro. Two-time second team All-Pro. Four-time Pro Bowl. Two-time NFL rush yards leader and NFL 2000s All-Decade team. So, Edgerrin James, he is kind of like Clinton Portis on steroids to me is how I looked at him. He, like, to be that big, that strong, that fast, that agile, that, like, he had everything. And he was playing on teams where it was like, give the ball to Edgerrin James every play. And then the only time we're not going to give it to him, we're going to play action to him and throw it somewhere. Like, he was that ridiculous for the Hurricanes. And then he went on to play with my man Peyton Manning in the NFL. So that gave me even more respect for him. But Edgerrin James tied for number 10 with Sean Taylor. So Sean Taylor played for the Hurricanes from 2001 to 2003. Second team All-Pro. That was in 2007. And then two-time Pro Bowl All-Rookie team. Washington Ring of Honor. He's a BCS national champion, Big East Defensive Player of the Year, and unanimous All-American while at Miami. So while we're talking about freaks of nature, this man, I always said the man in the big shoulder pads because this dude wore the biggest shoulder pads he could possibly find. You can't even see his neck. Like, you just see like his helmet and then his shoulder pads was like up over his helmet almost. You can see it in this picture. But freak of nature, the way that he could cover not just north and south, but the fact that he could cover east and west, like covering the whole range of the field in the backfield was crazy impressive. And then, the way that he used to hit people, he could not play in today's NFL. They would not allow him to play in today's NFL. He would get the same kind of treatment that Kareem Jackson got, like getting suspended and probably getting banned eventually, because Sean Taylor's putting that hat on people. So God bless Sean Taylor, my 10th favorite Hurricane of all time. All right, let's go next. This is another one where y'all going to say, what the heck? Duke Johnson. So Duke Johnson is, at one point I was saying that Duke Johnson was one of the most important recruits in the history of Miami Hurricanes football. The reason why I would say that is because he played 2012 to 2014. And if y'all know anything about those years, those were some bad years for the Canes. Like, if people think that the Canes are doing bad now, they forgot what it was like during those times, 2012 to 2014. So Duke Johnson ended up winning the ACC Brian Piccolo Award in 2014, first team All-ACC, two-time second-team All-ACC, Rookie of the Year, and ACC Offensive Rookie of the Year. So with Duke Johnson, the reason why I say he was one of the most important recruits, there was plenty of times where we only won like 6 games, and it looked like Duke Johnson single-handedly won like 3 or 4 of them. And I'm like, if we didn't have him on our team, we probably would have won 2 or 3 games this season. Like, he was ridiculous. Like, he was really, really good. I think he would have been able to play on like some of those 2002 teams that were right there on the cusp of winning the whole thing. I think he could have been a difference maker on one of those teams. He could catch the ball really well. He could run out of the backfield. He could run between the tackles. He could run the toss play. He could do everything. Like, he could catch the ball deep down the field. And it was obvious whenever the defenses would match up against our Hurricanes, they only had one goal: stop number 8. It was obvious. And he would still go off for 110 rushing yards, 80 receiving yards. Just go back and look at the numbers. Duke Johnson was crazy good. And it's unfortunate that his college talent was wasted on those teams that they just weren't any good, man. And I respect him so much because he was from the area. He always wanted to play for the Hurricanes. Even though the Hurricanes weren't very good, he went there anyway, and he was like, I'm not going anywhere, and he stayed and played all of his years with the Hurricanes. So I respect that a whole lot from him. Number 8, Devin Hester, one of my favorite Hurricanes, obviously also one of my favorite NFL players ever. So he played for the Hurricanes from 2003 to 2005. 3-time first-team All-Pro, second-team All-Pro in the NFL 2011, 4-time Pro Bowler, 2-time NFL kickoff return yards leader, 2-time NFL punt return yard leader, 3-time NFL Special Teams Player of the Year, and he's also on the 2000s All-Decade Team and the 2010s All-Decade Team. So he made 2 All-Decades teams in the NFL, which is crazy when you think about that. And then also first-team All-American when he was in college. So if you remember, like, what I like about Devin Hester is he was one of those dudes that was always a tweener. It was like, is he a kickoff specialist? Is he a corner? Is he a wide receiver? Like, what is this dude? And it ended up just like he almost invented that term athlete. Like, that's what he ended up being. It's just like, hey, man, if we need an extra corner, go ahead and put him out there at the nickel. If we need a slot receiver, go ahead and put him out there. Like, that's what he ended up being. And then, of course, he killed the game when it came to kickoff returners. He's probably the best kickoff returner of all time. Punt returner is probably Deion Sanders, but I think that Devin Hester is he's definitely the best kickoff returner of all time. Punt returner, Deion Sanders. Kick returner, got to go to Devin Hester. All right, let's talk about number 7, Frank Gore. So Frank Gore, he is one of my favorites because, number 1, my brother is a huge 49ers fan, like die-hard 49ers fan. And we watched so many Niners games, especially at the height of Frank Gore's peak, when they kept on either getting to the Super Bowl or almost getting to the Super Bowl, which is in the same spot they're in right now, which is crazy. But Watching those games made me respect him even more. Then I learned about his history and how he overcame so many injuries when he was coming into college, while he was in college. Like he had a lot of different injuries that made me say, I wonder, like, I wish I could have seen the Frank Gore that I hear about. Because there's all kind of people who talk about how good he was coming out of high school before he got these knee injuries and stuff. And they say that he was unbelievably good. And it kind of makes me wonder, like it kind of makes me wish that I could have seen that version of Frank Gore, because the Frank Gore that we got to see was really, really good anyway, you know? So, second team All Pro 2006, 5-time Pro Bowler, NFL 2010's All Decade Team. Art Rooney, award winner in 2016. He did get a BCS national championship. He was the ACC Brian Piccolo Award winner, just like Duke Johnson was. Second team All ACC and most games played by an NFL running back ever. Gotta respect the longevity. Gotta respect it. All right, number 6, Reggie Wayne. Reggie Wayne played at Miami from 97 to 2000, Super Bowl champion with the Colts. He also got to play with my man Peyton Manning too. First team All Pro in 2010, 2-time second team All Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler, NFL receiving yards leader in 1 year, Colts Ring of Honor, and most games played by a Colt. So Reggie Wayne is one of my favorites because obviously he had a really good career at Miami. He had a really good career in the NFL, and there's a lot of people who don't even know what he looks like and don't know what he sounds like because he's super quiet. He's not out there doing a bunch of showboating. He's not doing the CeeDee Lamb. Like every time he catches it, he's got to make a spectacle of it. FY, not a big CeeDee Lamb fan. He annoys me and he's obnoxious. I don't care for CeeDee Lamb. I don't care for people who every time, like for one, they never won anything. And then every time they do something, they got to let you know that they did it. It's like, bro, I see that you caught it. You don't have to get up doing your... Anyway, that's what I really liked about Reggie Wayne. He just went out there and let the game do the talking for him. He wasn't talking crazy after the games about how many interceptions this quarterback threw or how he got missed on this route when he was open. Reggie Wayne just went out there and got work every week. And for so long, I didn't know how good he really was because he was playing opposite of Marvin Harrison. And I'm like, well, if all of the coverage is getting shifted to Marvin Harrison, obviously you're going to get open. You know, that's how I was looking at it. But eventually I'm like, once Marvin Harrison left and Reggie Wayne became the number one, he held his own. He looked even better than when he was on the other side of Marvin Harrison. So big respect for Reggie Wayne. Huge respect for my man. All right, number 5, Warren Sapp. Warren Sapp is another guy who's kind of obnoxious. I'm not a big fan of him off the field, but his play on the field just made me a huge fan. You can't deny it. So he was with the Hurricanes from 91 to 94. Super Bowl champion with my Buccaneers, my favorite team, if y'all didn't know, my favorite NFL team. Oddly enough, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we can get into how that came to be from a kid living in Wichita, Kansas. We can talk about that at a later date. But he helped my Bucs get their first Super Bowl ever. NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 1999, 4-time first-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler, NFL 90s and 2000s All-Decades team. He's in the Buccaneers Ring of Honor, and he's the Big East Defensive Player of the Year in 94 and unanimous All-American in 1994. So Warren Sapp, obviously he's got a really big personality. I don't care for his personality off the field. I loved his personality on the field, though. He wasn't afraid to show exactly who he was on the field, under his pads. Like, it's hard to describe what I'm saying, but he played with a sense of joy that was easy to see. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you just watched him when he scored his touchdown, like when he caught that touchdown in the end zone for the Bucs, I think that was in 2001 maybe. He started lining up as a tight end every now and again, and he caught a touchdown in the end zone, and he did this touchdown dance that looked like a baby crying or something. It was hilarious. But that was the kind of stuff that I really enjoyed from Warren Sapp. But then, like, whenever people talk about him as a football player, when I'm trying to describe how good he was or who he was as a football player, I always describe him as like Shaquille O'Neal playing basketball. Because to be that big, that fast, and then that graceful on his feet, like that combination, it was unstoppable. He's not as good as Aaron Donald, but it was like Aaron Donald light. I can say that. Like he was like diet Aaron Donald, but Warren Sapp was a problem and could not be blocked. That's part of how he ended up getting the Defensive Player of the Year in '99. He could not be blocked because he was so big, really quick, and fast for that size. That combination, it was unstoppable, especially at that time. All right, let's go to number 4, Andre Johnson. 2000 to 2002 with the Hurricanes, 2-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler, 2-time NFL receptions leader, 2-time NFL receiving yards leader, Houston Texans Ring of Honor, and BCS national champion in 2001. So Andre Johnson was really, really good with the Texans right around the time that I started playing fantasy football. Like right when fantasy football started getting big, that was around the time when Andre Johnson would get like 7 catches, 100 yards every game, it seemed. Like he was like a guarantee almost. So obviously, when you playing video games or you're playing fantasy football and all those kind of things, it brings a whole nother level of respect for certain people. But the thing that I like about Andre Johnson more than anything is he kind of had that same type of mentality that the quiet killer receivers have that I really love. The opposite of CeeDee Lamb. Sorry, I gotta keep bringing CeeDee Lamb up, but he was the opposite of that. Andre Johnson, super quiet, but he was about that action. Like if you remember, like he and I think it was Cortland. Who was it? Flanagan. He got into a fight on the field. He played for the Titans. He was a corner for the Titans. I can't think of his name right now. But he got into a fight with him, and I was like, oh my gosh. Like, Andre Johnson was a beast, and he was a beast. He was almost like a tight end playing wide receiver, because he was really, really strong, but he was also super fast at the same time and could run great routes. So, Andre Johnson, number 4, favorite Hurricane of all time. Ray Lewis is my number 3. He played from 93 to 95. NFL Hall of Famer, 2-time Super Bowl champion. They beat my brother's 49ers, which was a bad night. I always remember that. 2-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year, 7-time first team All-Pro, 13-time Pro Bowler, 3-time tackles leader, NFL 2000s All-Decade Team, and first team All-American in 1995. So Ray Lewis, I remember being in like high school and all of my friends doing the Ray Lewis dance. Y'all know what that looked like. But we were like me and all my friends doing that dance. I remember playing Madden 2005 where Ray Lewis was on the cover. Like he just became this big, crazy icon. And I believe he is the best middle linebacker of all time. He's ridiculous. That last run that he had to win that Super Bowl when he had this big, huge brace on his arm and he was out there injured and still the heartbeat of his team, gotta respect it. Ray Lewis, number 3, favorite Hurricane of all time. Number 2 is my man Michael Playmaker Irvin. He played in Miami from 1984 to 87. NFL Hall of Famer, 3-time Super Bowl champ. Should have had more if Jimmy Johnson didn't leave, but if Jimmy Johnson wasn't pushed out the back door. First team All-Pro in 91. 5-time Pro Bowler, NFL receiving yards leader in 91, and then he's in the Cowboys Hall of Fame, or he's in the Cowboys Ring of Honor, and then the NCAA national champion in 87, which is the year I was born. Shout out to 1987. First team All-American 1986. So Michael Irvin, it's not just about, like he played for the Cowboys. I hate the Cowboys. Probably my least favorite team in all sports, the Dallas Cowboys. No, Florida State is my least favorite team in all of sports. Dallas Cowboys is number 2. K-State basketball is probably number 3. I hate K-State basketball, by the way. Kansas State basketball sucks. Anyway, so Michael Irvin, it's not just about the fact that he was a really good football player, but I love the dude's personality. I would love, like, when I was playing sports, I would have loved to play with Michael Irvin. His personality is infectious. He seems to always be the same, super excited, happy. Um, I love that personality that Michael Irvin always shows, whether he's on FS1 or he was on NFL Network or they're showing clips of how he acted crazy in the locker room. He seemed team oriented at all times, and he was a winner. Like, he won in college, he won in the NFL. Wherever Michael Irvin went, wherever Michael Irvin goes, even to this day, his teams seem to win. Uh, Even though he played for the dreaded Cowboys, I love Michael Irvin, the playmaker. Love the dude. All right, who's number one? I'm wondering if y'all can guess who number one is. So we went all the way from 26 to 2. So please leave in the comment section if you guessed who my number one was before we got to number one. Just put that in the comment section if you guessed it. All right. Number one is my favorite Hurricane of all time, obviously. My favorite football player of all time. My second favorite athlete of all time. My favorite athlete of all time, believe it or not, is Carmelo Anthony. Sorry, but it is. My second favorite athlete of all time is Ed Reed. This is actually an Ed Reed autograph helmet right here. I think my wife got it for me, I think. Or my brother, somebody. I think my wife got it for me. So, Ed Reed, I think he is the greatest safety of all time. He's not the greatest defensive player of all time. That's probably Lawrence Taylor. Or I guess Micah Parsons is going to take that crown from Lawrence Taylor, apparently. But anyway, so I think he's the greatest safety of all time. NFL Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion, 5-time first team All Pro Bowl, 9-time Pro Bowl. I'm sorry, 5-time first team All Pro, 9-time Pro Bowler, 3-time interception leader, BCS national champion in 2001, and the Big East Defensive Player of the Year in 2001. So he played on the greatest college football team of all time, which is the 2001 Hurricanes. He's the BCS national champion, obviously, that year, but he's also the Defensive Player of the Year on that crazy good team. Ed Reed is, if anyone asked me to describe who Ed Reed is, I would simply say Ed Reed is a champion. I don't know if you've seen, I'm sure you have seen his halftime speech. I think they were playing against Florida State. When he was talking about he was hurt, and he was like, everybody asking if I'm all right. No, I'm not all right. I'm hurt. Like, that kind of leadership in the locker room, how do you lose with that? You know? And then you look at the games where they were about to lose. Like, if you look at the Boston College game in 2001, they were about to lose. I think that was 2001. They were getting ready to lose that game. Somebody gets an interception for the Hurricanes, run down the field. They're going down. So what does Ed Reed do? Run over there, grabs the ball from his own teammate, and takes it all the way down the field for a touchdown that ended up sealing that victory. So Ed Reed, he's one of the very few people. Like, I've met some pretty cool people in my lifetime. He's one of the very few people that I would really love to meet one of these days. You know what I'm saying? So I've had the pleasure, I've been blessed to meet some real cool people. But I've got Tony Dungy on my list. I've received a letter from President Obama, but I would love to be able to meet him one of these days. There's only like 5 people that I really want to meet one of these days, and Ed Reed in the whole world. And Ed Reed is one of those people. I would love to meet him because I appreciate everything that he's done in football. And then I remember one game, they lost to the Patriots. Real tough game. I can't think of who the receiver was that dropped a touchdown in the end zone. I think it might have been Peerless Price. But anyway, I think it was. But they ended up losing this game, real close game, to the Patriots. And they showed a reporter, like, in the hallway, hoping that somebody would walk out so she could get an interview real quick. And she saw Ed Reed walk out. Excuse me. And she was like, hey, can I get an interview? He's like, yeah, sure. So he just lost this big game. It was the AFC Championship game. And he did this interview with this lady. And you could tell she was shocked at how pleasant he was, even though he lost this big, huge game. And she was like, thank you so much for doing this interview. And his response was, no problem. Like the way that he said that, I'm like, that is excellent character. Because anybody else, just about anybody else, I know I would have been like, I'm cool on the interview. I just lost. I don't want to talk to you right now. But for him to take the time to stand there and talk to this young lady, and then also when she's like, thank you so much for doing that, his response was, you ain't got to thank me like that. It's no problem. That's what I'm here for. Not a problem. So I know the Bethune-Cookman thing went kind of crazy, which made me laugh a few times. I hate the way that it ended. My man got fired before he coached the game. I hated that happened. But, yeah, man. Ed Reed, favorite Hurricane of all time. Favorite Hurricane ever. And I will meet him one of these days, and then I'll be able to tell y'all, like, hey, y'all, dream just happened. I met Ed Reed. But anyway, let me know who y'all think was on this list and you thought there's no way that this fool should have so-and-so in his top 26 favorite Hurricanes of all time. I'm really curious to know who that would be. Also, let me know if you were able to guess that number one was Ed Reed once I went through 26 all the way to 2. I know a lot of y'all going to be like, I think Sean Taylor would probably be a conversation for y'all where you're going to say, how is he all the way down? He should at least top 3. That's probably what some of y'all are going to say. Yeah. Let me know who you think was either too high, too low, and we'll get this conversation going. All right, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you watching the video. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I truly appreciate that. So take care. God bless. Peace.